to the very last accessibility office hour that we have for the year. So the Accessibility Office Hour is an event from Knowbility that we host to talk about a topic related to accessibility for 1 hour of the month. So this month is December and it's the holidays. And because it's the holidays, we're going to be talking about our favorite topic, accessibility and the holidays and how we make the holidays accessible. So we need to get this party started so that you can get your party started. So my name is Mariela Paulino and I am the Director of Marketing for Knowbility. I am a Hispanic woman. I have braids in my hair, which are hidden under my Santa hat, which is red with some stars and a little white bell. I am wearing a red dress with a black scarf, and my background is a purple background that says Knowbility. So today I am so excited because of the work that we're doing for Knowbility. Let me tell you a little bit about Knowbility. So today's event is powered by Knowbility, and Knowbility is a nonprofit organization that provides community programming as well as audits, consulting, trainings, and workshops on web accessibility to tech professionals and allies. We have been doing this work since 1999. Knowbility has worked with hundreds of businesses, education organizations, government and nonprofit agencies to train staff, implement effective accessibility strategies, and monitor the long-term goals to reach millions of new users and train people on best practices for web accessibility. We hope that we are or have been a part of your journey. Now, let's go over to the next slide. We would not be able to make the web accessible without your support. Your support allows our work to be possible. And for those of you that have made a donation in the past, told your employers about us, come to our events, we are so grateful for you and for all of the work that we have done together over the last year. Thank you. If you're interested in continuing to support Knowbility and our mission, we want you to go ahead right now and go to knowbility.org/donate. Every donation makes a huge difference in our ability to continue doing this work and making the web accessible. We also encourage you, if your employer does matching gifts or matching donations, please go ahead and make Knowbility the organization where you make your donation. Again, every single cent makes a difference in our ability to do this work and make the web accessible. Let's go over some guidelines before we officially get this party started. So the first thing is that the purpose of the Accessibility Office Hour is to create an accessible and inclusive space. That starts with the way we treat each other. So that really leads to rule number 2, which is be kind, polite, and respectful. Make sure that you are saving your questions and using this as a learning space. On the upper right-hand corner of the slide, you will see that we have the link for you to submit your questions, which is bit.ly/ask-knowbility, and I'll get to that in just 1 minute. But we only have 3 rules, and the third rule is ensure accessibility. Turn on the closed captioning functionality, and we want to give a special thank you to Texas Captioning for transcribing today's conversation. We hope that this is an inclusive and accessible space for you, and we thank you for joining us today. Let's go over to the next slide. This is a learning space. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions. Whatever questions you may have relating to today's topic, we want you to go ahead and ask them. You can go on our Google form at bit.ly/ask Ask Knowbility. We're monitoring that, so we'll be looking at your questions and we'll try to answer them as soon as possible during the course of today's conversation. You can also go on Twitter using hashtag A11Y office hour. If you don't know what hashtag A11Y or really A11Y means, it stands for accessibility. It's a numerism. So accessibility is 11 letters. So we're able to take A from accessibility and then 11 letters and then Y. So this is the accessibility office hour. And if you have a question and you don't want to go on the Google form or Twitter, go ahead and email us at hello@knowbility.org. Again, we're going to be monitoring the questions and this is a safe space for you to learn. So we're looking forward to reading whatever questions you may have. Let's go over to the next slide. Our agenda. We really planned today's event and we are so grateful that you're going to be joining us. We have so much information for you. The first thing we're going to talk about is preparing for your holidays. I'm going to be talking very briefly about the very best practice that I use during the holidays, which is communication. Then we'll have Erica, who will talk about how you can prepare for the holidays. We'll talk about best practices during your celebration. And we will have Adam, who will be talking about seating arrangements and captioning. And finally, we'll be talking about some best practices for gifts. And we'll be hearing from Anthony and Molly. I am so excited about the agenda we have. Let's talk about the first tip of the day. The best practice that has worked for me all this time is communication. Communication is key, not just for the holidays, but for everything in life. As the host, if you are hosting a virtual or in-person holiday party, make sure that your guests feel welcome and that they are encouraged to share their needs. Erica is going to be talking a little bit more about that in just 1 minute. But as a host, you want to be able to create a welcoming space where people can come to you and say, hey, Mariela, I think I may need this accommodation. And as a host, it's your responsibility to work with that person to make sure that they feel included and that the space is accessible for them. And if you're a guest that needs an accommodation, like me as a person with a hearing disability, don't assume that the host understands what your needs are. People don't know what they don't know. And it's your job to also advocate for yourself and work with the host to make sure that you are included and that you have an accessible and positive experience during the holidays. Now, those are all my tips. And I am so excited to pass this along to Erica, who will be talking about some of the best practices she's come across. Erica, can you come up on the stage?
Thank you, Mariela. My name is Erica Braverman, and I'm one of the community engagement specialists at Knowbility. I also run our Access Works program, so I'm going to be talking about digital invitations. I write a lot of digital invitations, but they're usually to accessibility studies, so it's very nice to talk about party invitations for a change. I'm a white woman, I'm wearing glasses, and I have dark brown hair. It's currently in a ponytail, and I'm wearing a black and white checkered button-down shirt, and I have the same purple background, Knowbility background as Mariela. So you can't have a party without inviting people, so let's start with our invitations. And you can't write an accessible digital invitation without an accessible tool. What could this accessible tool be? There's lots of those e-invite tools out there for creating digital invitations. I did a quick Google search for an accessible digital invitation tool, and I didn't find too many good options. Not a lot of companies, unfortunately, mentioned accessibility. So if you have such a tool and you're listening, highly recommend adding that so we can recommend you next year. So I would say for now, unless you can check a tool, find a tool, check the accessibility, and you get good results, standard email can be the way to go. That way people can receive the email in the email tool of their choice with the accessibility settings and assistive technology of their choice. So they have everything set up for them. When you send those emails, a big thing to consider, and one of the questions that we have about these Evite tools, digital invitation tools, is pictures of text. You really want to avoid pictures of text. You need to have a description of any image, an alt text for any image. So just bear that in mind for your email. That's one of the big concerns when I go out looking at these tools. So, you know, text is the way to go. We all like text. So now that you've figured out that you're probably going to be using email to send your invitation, how are you going to set that email up? It's important to think about the size of your text, the color contrast between the text and the background, and will your font be easy to read? So I have a little sample invitation. It says, you're invited to Reginald and Matilda's holiday party. Please join us for dinner, drinks, and a campfire. The date is Saturday, December 18th, and the time is 5:00 p.m. I have chosen a large enough size of text, and it's not too small. I think this is about 16-point font on here. I've used a pretty standard font. It is a serif font, but not a lot of scrolls or loops or anything like that. It's black text and white background. Nice to have dark text against a light background. It's usually good policy. And then I've also broken up the sections into chunks. The first part is that you're invited, followed by the dinner, drinks, campfire. There's a space in between those sections, and then the date and time with another space between that. The reason for that is I want my content to be simple and broken into chunks. Why am I doing all of this? For people who have a vision-related disability, small text, not a lot of contrast, that might be very difficult to pick out the information. If I have a picture of text, someone using a screen reader won't know what the information is. And then for people who have a learning disability or a cognitive disability, or maybe someone who is reading the information from their phone to someone who's driving to the party in the dark, you know, it's helpful to have a simple content and easy to read invitation. All right, so let's move on to the next part of our invitation. And then, you know, as we're going back out into the world, our party is probably going to be at an address that we can find on Google Maps, or if we're having a virtual party, there might be a Zoom link. And we want to make sure that people know what those links are and where they're taking them. The technical term would be a descriptive link, and that's a link that tells you where you're going and what you're going to find there. So we want our links to be descriptive. Why? Again, screen reader users are probably pulling out those links. So if there's no context, they don't know what they're going for. And then people who are magnifying their screen, or people who have a disability relating to processing information, the more context there is in a small piece of real estate, the better. So on my invitation, my location is the Pine Club at 123 West Street. And for my Google Map link, I made the link text read Google Map of the Pine Club, which, by the way, is a real place. I just made up the name, but I found out that there's a Pine Club in Ohio. So I put the real location in there. And then when we think of where people are going to be going when they click the link, it's important to think about accessibility. Is the site accessible? I'm going to jump out of the digital world for just a minute here. When I say accessible site, obviously at Knowbility, we're talking about a website, but if the physical site, the venue of your party is not accessible, PSA, please find a new location. If people cannot get into your party or will be very uncomfortable once they've arrived at your party, it's not a great party location. So think about, you know, ramps, elevators, everything you need ahead of time. Very important. we're going to jump back to the website. For the Pine Club, it's a restaurant. It's got, entrances, it's got an address, it's got a menu. Sometimes there's information about, valet or a dress code, depending on how fancy your party is. People need to be able to get that information before they arrive. And if the website is not accessible to all of your guests, you as the host or hostess is responsible for making sure everyone has that information. You might even call the venue. Hey, your site's not accessible. Your menu's an inaccessible PDF. Can you send me an accessible version? You might have so much frustration with the website that you end up moving your party. If you do that, call the venue, let them know they need to be accessible. But it's on you to look for barriers on the site and make sure that everyone has all the information they need from the website to get ready to attend your party. And then I'm going to finish up with the last piece of the information on this invitation. Right below our Google map, again, another space to break up our content, it says, "We are looking forward to having you join us for a wonderful evening. Please text or call Reginald at 123-456-7890. It's not a real number, to let us know about any allergies or accommodations you will need." Why is this so important? This goes back to what Mariella said about communication and being welcoming. I found this wonderful quote from Emily Post, who is really, the last word on etiquette in so many ways. Manners are a sensitive awareness of the feelings of others. If you have that awareness, you have good manners no matter what fork you use, which I think is so perfect. Thinking about parties and accessibility all through the year, and any time where we're coming together. And basically what that boils down to is, if your guests need any kind of accommodation, are you interpreting that as they're a burden to you? Or are you so excited to see them and you're so thrilled to have them at the party that you're going to be gracious and happy to make this a great experience for them and an accessible experience? So if someone needs to communicate an accommodation to you, they might be coming with an attendant. They have some new assistive technology that they're still learning to use, and they want people to be mindful. They have a service animal. They have a severe shellfish allergy. Anything they need to tell you. Are there clear instructions for who they're contacting to express these needs or accommodations? And that, yes, we have a channel set up to do so. So notice it's, please text or call Reginald. Here's his number. Who and how is important. And then are you communicating that you are happy to provide these accommodations? Or are people going to read this invitation and think, oh, well, I'm going to ruin the party if I attend. I'd better stay home. I don't want to make a fuss. If you want people to attend, you need them to want to attend. And a good way to do that is to make it known that if they have any kind of need, that you're happy to help them out. And perfect timing. Look at that. With that, we're going to wrap up the digital invitations, and I am going to turn this over to our friend Adam, who is going to talk about what happens after people arrive at your party.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm a volunteer at Knowbility, and I'm going to be I want to describe what I look like first before I get into everything. What I'm wearing right now is a long sleeve black sweatshirt, and behind me are white walls where you can see the doorway to my kitchen on one side and part of my living room on the other side. And this is the extension of my living arrangement right now. And so today I want to be going over on this slide, I want to go over the in-person best practice for seating and acoustic. I want to talk about how during the holidays, things are going to be fun. You're going to be invited to parties. You're going to want to be included in family and friends and events and whatnot. And on this slide, you can see there are two pictures. On one side, there's a round table, and on the other side, there's a rectangle table. What we're going to go over is that you want to make sure you're getting your professional seating beforehand to the event. So like for instance, if you are hard of hearing or deaf, would you rather be sitting at a round table or a rectangle table? Some people, I would prefer a round table because it will be a little bit easier to lip read for everyone in front of you, and it will be a little easier to be able to have sound management around the table rather than at the rectangle where you have to kind of look over the dish or look around or keep turning your head left and right. And by the end of the night, you're giving yourself a neck workout. On top of that, with the seating arrangements, I want to talk about how it's important to include someone who uses a wheelchair, but not just only include them, but making sure that when they arrive, that there's no chair in front of them and they know that this is their seat. And on the other hand, you want to make sure that the table is going to be at the right height for them. You want to make it awkward where the table's a few inches above their waist and it feels like it's in their face. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable and they feel included in every party that we go to. And let's go to the next slide. On this slide, I'm going to be talking about the best virtual practices for communication access. What that means is that ever since COVID has happened, a lot of things have changed throughout businesses, meetings, and whatnot. We no longer really meet in person that often anymore, and we have to drastically change how we approach meetings. So like for instance, Zoom is a platform that we can use. Now, with Zoom, there are many ways we can use it to help for those who are hard of hearing or deaf. Zoom does provide closed captioning, which is great. It allows you to stay along with the conversation and follow along with the meeting, and you don't feel left out. On top of that about Zoom, which is a great thing, is that after the meeting is over, you can actually go back to the meeting and download the transcription and read it over again just in case you missed anything. And that's a great thing about Zoom. If you never used Zoom before, I can describe the picture a little bit for you. Right now, what you're seeing is a platform of team members all on one meeting. And down on the search bar on the bottom, there are a bunch of options you can use. In the middle is the closed captioning button they can use, and you click on it. When you click on it, it will provide the live captioning for you, and you'll be able to follow along the conversation. Another platform that you can use is also Google Meet. Google Meet is a great platform to use for closed captioning. It's a little bit different than what Zoom is. Google Meet allows you to have space for your closed captioning below the videos and below all the people's screens, so that way you can actually follow along the conversation. However, it does not allow you to download a transcription after the meeting, but it is another great platform that you can use and for your meetings and to stay on top of things and tasks and not be left out. So I'm going to pass this along to Anthony, who's my next colleague, and you guys have a great day.
All righty, welcome everyone. I am Anthony Vasquez, and I'm a communication specialist with Knowbility. I'm sitting here in a small room, the corner of the room, and I'm in a black office chair, wearing maybe like a dark bluish shirt, short sleeve. Get to do that here in Southern California. Anywho, so as Adam was saying, I'll be talking sharing a few tips here on gifts that you may want, some considerations for gifts for your friends or family or colleagues who are blind or visually impaired or low vision. First, I will talk about some physical gifts, and we talked about invitations, e-invitations. Here, I want to focus on physical invitations. So on this first slide here, we have a written invitation for an in-person party, and it reads, "Eat, drink, and be merry." join us for dinner and drinks Saturday, 12/23/21 at 7 o'clock p.m. The 21 Club, 21 W 52nd Street, New York, New York. And it has here the RSVP to Alexis Smith. That's got an email address, a.smith@email.com by 12/17/21. And so, and on the right of my slide here, we have a photo of a page from a Braille book, just kind of decorative to show you what Braille looks like. And as a blind person, I do enjoy, getting Braille cards. It's something that I really do appreciate when people do take the time to do that. I've been reading Braille since I was 4, so for me, it's neat to have it. But I do want to kind of emphasize one thing, that just because your friend or colleague is blind doesn't mean that they read Braille. Now, that said, I think it's good to just focus on greeting cards, holiday cards that have texture on them, even the texture of a snowman, of a Christmas tree, or of whatever. It doesn't have to be holiday related. If it has texture, that already to me shows even extra thought. It's thoughtful enough that they're going to give you a card, but that it has texture is actually quite nice. Now, if you are sure that your recipient reads or writes Braille, you might still want to consider which grade of Braille. So basically, there are 2, I guess, levels of Braille. It's the same code, but there's contracted and uncontracted. In the olden days, they would call that grade 1 and grade 2. Now, chances are, if your blind friend, a colleague, or a relative has just started learning Braille, or just if they've just started, they're probably still reading uncontracted Braille, where each character stands for one letter. If they're more advanced, then they would get contracted. Now, my impression is that any kind of cards that you buy, and here we get down to the section called Where'd You Buy Your Cards? Any kind of cards that you would buy from like major retailers with simple generic readings like, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, they're probably going to use uncontracted Braille. So the whole grade thing might be something for more, if you're going to buy a custom card, for example. But major retailers nowadays do have, I don't know if it's a wide selection, but they do at least have some options for you to pick from. And I think that's just a nice touch. If you are going to make custom cards, though, I've listed here Etsy as a good resource, just because there seems to be a lot of independent artists and just small businesses making Braille cards now, which is quite a new development. I recently got a nice customized card from a friend who lives in Ohio, and he sent me a nice card for her birthday, because not really traveling these days. But he spoke to a shop here. Actually, I think they're based in California, called Tactile Hearts, and he customized it in contracted Braille and Chinese Braille. Actually, I studied Chinese in college, so yeah, there's a lot of options out there now, which is really, really a nice thing to know is happening. And when it comes to physical gifts, physical cards, physical invitations. In the second part here, I want to talk about digital gifts. So on screen, we should have an image with the logo for an organization called AppleVis. The logo text has the letters A and V in all caps, and then AppleVis underneath it. It's black text on a white background, I believe. It's black and white is their color scheme. But this isn't just about Apple products, but I do want to focus on 2 or 3 sources of information that you can use to just do some quick research when you're going to buy an app, for example, for a friend, or an online subscription. Now, focusing on mobile here, I do highly recommend AppleVis. That's AppleVis, all one word. They're at AppleVis on Twitter. And they're a forum and an email list and a podcast on all things Apple. So not just apps, but hardware questions, bug reports. They have excellent bug reports when the new version of iOS comes out, but tons and tons of reviews on apps. Basically, if it's a popular app, someone has downloaded it and someone has reviewed it on AppleVis. Chances are very, very high that that's the case. So if you're going to give someone a subscription to a new, an audiobook app, for example, or just a quick search online, AppleVis followed by the name of the app, you're going to find recommendations from people who've actually used these things, tell you the pros and cons, and which will make your gift giving choice a lot easier. Of course, it's not just all about iOS and Apple products. Android is huge and it's growing, and accessibility for blind people and low vision people is getting the gap between Android and Apple products is narrowing. There's a lot that you can do now with modern Android phones with the screen readers that come built in, TalkBack, which is built into every Android product. And then some of the other manufacturers, I guess the Samsung one is gone now. But in any case, I recommend blind Android users and accessible Android. Blind Android users is at blind droid users on Twitter. And accessible Android is accessible droid on Twitter. And I've done a little bit more research on blind Android users. I don't use an Android phone, but I just need to know about this stuff as part of my job. But blind Android users, it has an excellent podcast. I think they're like on episode, gosh, they're past their 40s now, but they're quite prolific at producing these podcasts on all things Android apps and also hardware. So again, if you're going to make a digital gift, or if you're going to purchase an Android or Apple product, and this covers everything. All these forums talk about everything from the stock phones to watches to computers. I mean, you want to give someone a Chromebook, I'm sure blind Android users will have something on it. But yeah, again, just kind of to reinforce the points, do your research, just like you would give the time to research a gift for anyone else, disabled or not, right? You wouldn't want to give somebody a gift whose color is a color that person doesn't like, right? So it's a little thoughtfulness would go a long way into making a good impression, a better impression for both physical gifts, for cards, for invitations, and for apps. I'm Anthony, and I will now pass it on to Molly. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So I'm going to continue on that theme of some gift guidelines. So first I'll describe myself. I'm Molly. I'm a community programs specialist and community engagement specialist at Knowbility. I am a white woman in my 30s. I have blonde hair. I'm wearing a red sweater over a white collared shirt, and I have the same purple background as Mariella and Erica that says Knowbility in the corner. So today I'm going to be going over some general and more specific gift giving guidelines. If you're anything like me, you tend to procrastinate on finding those gifts for the holidays, but this guide is going to be pretty useful for any occasion where you'd like to get a gift, birthdays, celebrations, or of course the holidays. So for our general guidelines, I'm going to first echo Mariella here and emphasize that communication is key. Communication will really help you find the right gift for your friend or family member. And on that note, surprises may not make the best gift. Asking what your friend or family member wants may be the key to finding the right gift, because they will know what accessibility features are most helpful for them if you are getting a specific tool. They will also know which products and features won't work for them. They may already have a preferred accessible system set up. Say they're an Apple user and you're thinking about getting getting them a watch. Maybe they would like an Apple Watch to go with their iPad and their Apple TV. If you would like to keep the element of surprise, you can also just ask for a wish list. But either way, any way you go, you will want to communicate in some way, make sure that you're matching their preferences and what they'd like. So that's the biggest one. You'll want to keep that in mind. A few other things generally to keep in mind include how much upkeep does the gift require to maintain, if any? Is that upkeep going to be manageable or enjoyable or accessible for the recipient? If you're getting them a grill, for instance, will they enjoy cleaning out the grill? I know particularly that is a job I actually like to do. So that wouldn't be a negative for me, but again, communicate that and make sure that that's a chore they're willing to do. You also want to see if it requires any extra equipment or products to use it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another good rule of thumb is just because it's accessible for one person doesn't mean it's accessible for another. That also goes for something that might be inaccessible. On that note, just because something is accessible does not mean it's a great gift. So you'll want to check if the accessibility features match the preferences of the recipient. Big thing here, medical products are not a great gift choice unless explicitly asked for. Nobody wants a surprise bathroom scale or a blood pressure tool. These are not exactly fun presents. So unless somebody explicitly asks for that, avoid medical equipment. Kind of brings the mood down. And not all accessible gift ideas will necessarily be labeled accessible. For instance, you might want to get a Braille Scrabble. That one will be labeled, but you could also get a hat. That's not labeled accessible, but it will be likely accessible for the recipient. So, consider those things. So those are kind of our big overview guidelines when thinking about what to get for your friend or family member. But now I'll go through a few specific gift genres and what to think about with those. So for gift cards, gift cards are a great gift, but some things to think about when giving one. Can the recipient use the card for online shopping, or do they need to go into a physical store? And if so, are they able to get to the store, and is the shop accessible? These are things you'll want to check up on. If they are able to use the gift card online, is the website accessible? So you'll want to check that, of course. Not only that, you'll want to make sure the payment portal is accessible. That tends to be, that can be a problem. So you'll want to check all of those things before you just go forward with a gift card. And of course, circling back to that communication preference note, that this is a gift card to something that they're interested in, that they like, and that they will be able to use and be happy to use. For DIY gifts, I know those cookie mix in a jar, hot cocoa mix in a jar are really popular. I like to make kind of a herbal simple syrup for friends. But if you are giving a gift in a jar like that, you'll want to make sure the instructions are accessible. Could you make the text larger, print it in Braille, or record the information? Is it written in plain language? So the instructions, if there are instructions, are easy to follow and clear. And finally, are you packaging your gift in a container that is easy to open? Yes. So those are a few things to consider with gift cards and, DIY gift in a jar gifts. Finally, on that in that genre, offers of services to and help around the house. These can be helpful, but this is where communication really is important. You don't want to just offer something that somebody doesn't want or need. You know, for instance, if somebody uh, likes doing home repairs around their house, don't just assume that they will need you to come in and do that for them. So that one you really want to communicate to make sure you're not just coming in and doing something that they don't really find useful or helpful. For music, books, and entertainment, a few things to consider. One, so if you're getting them tickets to a show or concert, is the venue accessible? That's the first thing to check. Are the tickets accessible? Is that something that they're going to be able to easily show or access? And then finally, does the venue provide ASL interpretation for concerts and performances if applicable? So these are a few things to consider for live performances. And then finally, you might be interested in you might be interested in giving them a streaming service subscription. I know right now with the streaming wars, you need like 8 or 9 streaming services just to watch everything that you'd like. So these are, I'm sure, going to be a popular gift. But again, of course, first you'll want to make sure that particular subscription is accessible. If it provides audio description, if applicable, captioning, if applicable, and transcripts, if applicable. You also want to make sure the website is accessible. Will they be able to easily tell what they are search for and find the show that they want to watch? Is the website app that the participant will use to access the service accessible? And then finally, how is the subscription set up? Will they be able to easily renew or cancel the service if they want to? So how do you access the service? What are the passwords? And is that process something that is straightforward and easy to use? And then for books, how does the gift recipient like to access printed materials? Is it Braille, large print, audiobooks? Again, this is just something you'll want to make sure you know before assuming. I guess the second part of the communication rule is to never assume. Don't guess. Either you know or you ask. So we'll move on to outdoors and travel. And if there's one thing I know about outdoorsy people or people who love to travel, it's that they love gear. And there are a ton of great gear options out there, including talking tools and adaptive products. But with especially talking tools, you'll want to make sure you look at reviews. Those can be on YouTube or Google or the product website from people who have actually used those products. And again, always ask what they might want or find useful. Maybe even asking how they travel or what kind of things they like to do outside. So you can make sure you're getting the right thing, something that they will get a lot of use out of. Similarly, another area where talking tools are common is with cooking and food. So again, I'll just underline that you'll want to check reviews of people who have actually used these products because there are a lot of talking tool options out there. And just because it exists doesn't mean it's necessarily a great product. So you'll want to really check those reviews and make sure the users are really on board with that particular tool. Kitchen tools, a great thing to consider is how easy is it to lift and to clean and to grip, and how much strength you'll need for the particular tool. So those are just some things to keep in mind with manual tools. Again, if it comes in a package or requires dexterity. Is it easy to open? Is it easy to use? If that's applicable to your recipient. And finally, with gifts around food, and I could have mentioned this up above with the gift in a jar, because you'll certainly want to make those ingredients clear, but does the recipient have any specific dietary requirements related to, any specific dietary requirements, foods that might be difficult for them to eat, sensory needs around food, or any dietary restrictions or allergies. So we'll just keep saying it. Communication is key, and what may work for one person may not work for another. Okay, so we'll move on to tech and gaming. So some good thing, there are a lot of great options for gaming devices, but some things to consider there are, does the device or game come with an add-on control, such as the switch control that needs to be accessible for the recipient? And does the device work with the recipient's preferred assistive technologies? And finally, on that note, does the gift work with their already established gaming system? So you want to make sure that it's accessible on all fronts. You'll also want to make sure that it is something that they'll be able to easily use physically, if that is applicable. And a good thing to do is to look into accessible video games that have audio cues or audio description, or no audio required games, and flexible difficulty modes. So these are important things to look for when you're picking a game. And of course, again, ask for their preferences. The world of video games is very particular and vast. So that is definitely one where communication is going to be really important. I don't think, just grabbing something at random or something that you find interesting will work in that case. You're going to really want to know what they're into. Okay, and the last section we have here is fashion and makeup. So for fashion, makeup, and clothes, you'll want to check if there are any features of clothing that you should prioritize or avoid, such as stretchy or soft fabrics, how many buttons or zippers they prefer. Does the participant use magnetic fasteners? Or do they not like any of these things? Do they have a sensory sensitivity to any particular thing, like any particular fabric? And do they use a mobility device that works best with adaptive footwear? So those are things that you'll want to know before picking something. And if you're buying a purse, backpack, or wallet, you will want to check what types of bags already work well for the participant. What would be easy for them to reach and open, if that's something to consider, and would they prefer a bag that attaches to a wheelchair? Finally, are there certain colors, prints that are visually easier for the recipient to mix and match? So those are a few things to consider in a variety of genres of gifts, as well as I'll just circle back to our main thing. If you take away one thing from my section, let it be that communicate with them to ensure that the gift is something they want and suits their preferences. I will mention as well, we will have a printed version of this guide available. I think we'll follow up with Erica and Anthony because they're working on that, but where that guide will be available, I'm pretty sure we'll be putting it as a blog post. So thank you, and now I will return it to Mariella.
Ooh. Oh my goodness, what a great presentation. So Jay, if you can get all of us up on the stage. Thank you. That was so awesome. I feel like I'm ready to host my accessible party now and make it 100% accessible and just like really go out there and make everyone feel included. Before we go any further, we have a question. This question is from Lindsay, and she said, I am attending someone's party next month and the facility only has stairs. So she is an attendee, not a host. So I am attending someone's party next month and the facility only has stairs. They have switched the venue 3 times because of affordability and availability. My grandpa cannot climb stairs that are steep, so I'm worried about this. Any tips? Also, this space does not have an elevator. That is such a great question. Erica, you pointed some tips earlier. I'm wondering if maybe you can provide some tips for Lindsay on how she can address this issue. Go for it.
All right. Well, thank you, Lindsay, for reaching out with your question. I'm very sorry that, you're in this situation where you're stuck doing the legwork on behalf of your grandfather. But this is what I would do. I've had a few minutes to think this over after Jay let me know that you reached out with this question. First of all, unfortunately, this is not as uncommon of an issue as we might think, even though we have the ADA laws, because certain historic buildings get around this because of the age of the building or historical significance. So, this is something, I'm glad you raised this point because this does come up in other situations. I would be very direct and reach out to the the contact person phone number for RSVP. Thank you so much for your invitation. Unfortunately, my grandfather cannot walk up and down stairs and won't be able to attend. Or you don't even need to say he won't be able to attend. Unfortunately, our family won't be able to get up and down the stairs. Is there an alternative way? Even if there's not an alternative way, feel free to bat it back into their court to get into the party. Ideally, the host or hostess will feel appropriately horrified and help you troubleshoot. I don't know what this venue is. There might be, a different space. They could, move it to the first floor instead of the second floor. They might say, well, we're going to move it again because we're getting calls left and right about the stairs. But if they're unwilling to budge, which I really hope they're not unwilling to budge, they've made it their problem. B, you're doing the right thing by helping out your grandfather. So, no, you shouldn't have any qualms on your part. If anyone insinuates to you at any point that you are causing a problem, please know from all of us that you are not. And if there are people in the family that you can enlist to support you, if in case you get pushback, reach out to those people. We are hello@nobility.org if needed. And also, if they come back to you with a solution that is unsafe or inappropriate for your grandfather, you are under no obligation to accept that as a solution. You don't want him to do anything dangerous coming out of an already unsafe situation for him. So I would suggest that you immediately reach out, just state it very plainly. Our family, my grandfather can't get up the stairs. What are you going to do about it? Don't say it quite like that, but that's really the approach. So best of luck to you, and thank you for asking. We hope that they do work with you, make their party accessible to everyone, and that you all have a lovely time.
So hi everybody, this is Jay McKay. So I think Erica's suggestion was great. And I'm just going to throw out something that you may want to Google if you want to give your party planner a hint. Depending on the stairs situation, I don't know the degrees and things like that, but I concur with Erica, just state it very plainly. We're going to have difficulty navigating the stairs. That gives your planner the option to see about those alternative entrances. There are things like those, temporary wheelchair ramps that are very safe to use. Again, it depends on your degrees and angles like that, but just something to, if they need a hint, that's a hint you can give them.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Jay. Molly, Adam, and Anthony, is there anything else you want to add to Lindsay? No? We also have another question on the Google form. What is a universally accessible gift? Molly, I think this one would be more for you. Do you have any suggestions on what an universally accessible gift would be? Is there such a thing?
Erica writes in the chat, cash, which I mean, I think that's a good option. That's universally accessible, or at least universally needed in our society. So yep, I think that cash and yeah, a check if that's what they prefer. But yeah, that might be the only really truly universally accessible and needed gift, or appreciated gift. Other than that, you're gonna have to know something about your friend or family member in order to pick out a present for them.
Thank you, Molly. Anthony, I saw that you went off mute. Do you want to add to that?
Sure. The one thing I would kind of, I guess, as a caveat for cash is that in some countries, including the United States, it is not accessible to blind people, in the sense that unless you're going to give lots of coins, which are differentiated by size and texture, every paper, I mean, this may, I think of it as common sense, it may not be. Every paper currency in the United States, every bill feels exactly the same. You could give me a $1 bill, call it a $100 bill, and I would have no way to tell it until, well, now there are apps, right? But just by physically distinguishing it, there's no way. An alternative would be a gift card. Some gift cards have really cool, again, textures again. I know the Starbucks one for a while, they probably still have it. It has the word Starbucks in Braille, which is kind of cool. And but yeah, it's still cash, I suppose, but it's in a form that's a little more accessible than simply paper currency, which is great as long as you know what you're dealing with. But
excellent point.
So
write a note saying how much it is, and actually have that be how much it is, or Venmo.
Sure.
Yeah.
Digital cash.
Okay.
Digital cash. Bitcoin.
All right, esteemed colleagues, I'm going to ask Jay to move us all off the stage and just go ahead and pin me. So we are almost at time. I want to thank all of you who joined us today. Those of you that are going to be watching this video off into the future, we're going to be sharing this on our YouTube over the next couple of days. We're going to be sharing little clips here and there on social media to keep you coming back for more. And to keep you coming back for more, we are going to ask you to stay connected, to keep in the community, stay connected with us. The way that you can do that is by signing up for our newsletter by going to bit.ly/Nobility News. I also encourage all of you to follow us on social media at Nobility. And then finally, if you want to email us, go ahead and email us at hello@nobility.org. We also encourage all of you to follow us on Humanitix, and we'll put the link for that in a follow-up email. And also, thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to check with your employers about matching donations for the holidays. You can go ahead and make a donation by going to nobility.org/donate. And with that said, this is the very last Accessibility Office Hour of the year. from Knowbility, we are so looking forward to another amazing year. We are looking forward to helping you make the web accessible, and we are looking forward to working with you to create a more accessible and inclusive world, online and offline, for all of us. I will see you next year. Have an amazing holiday, and until next time. Bye-bye, everybody.